You have to understand, the world you see out there isn't a solid structure, it's a memory. We are all living in the afterglow of who we were yesterday, fighting shadows and calling them reality. If you want to change the building, you have to stop shouting at the walls and find the architect sitting in your own chest.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, just sitting here with you looking at how the fabric of reality actually works, that framing is just, it hits perfectly. Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. You know, establishing this atmosphere right off the bat is so important because, well, we spend our lives just exhausted, right?
Completely exhausted,
We
yes.
fight to change our bank accounts or, we struggle with our relationships or health. We push against the physical world as if it's this fixed, immovable thing. And the ultimate question you have to ask yourself is, if I am the one creating this reality, why does it feel like I am a prisoner to it?
That is the central illusion. And the mission of this deep dive is to completely dismantle that illusion. We need to stop operating from the level of what we've been experiencing and look at the internal architecture, specifically heart-brain coherence. Because reality is not a place you live in, it is a broadcast you emit.
A broadcast. I love that. So let's talk about the physical world, because I think people fundamentally misunderstand what the struggle actually is. We treat the physical world like a solid wall.
Right, but it isn't a wall at all. It is a mirror. It is a delayed reflection of your internal state. Think about what happens when you walk up to a mirror and you don't like the image staring back at you.
You don't start scrubbing the glass.
Exactly. You could stand there and violently scrub the mirror all day long, completely forgetting that your own face remains dirty. You cannot change the reflection without changing the source.
But wait, hold on. Let me push back on that a bit, because I think a lot of people listening have tried to, change the source and they just hit a brick wall. I'm talking about the classic visualization trap.
Why, yes. The trap.
Because I've done it. I sit down, I close my eyes, I imagine a perfectly healthy body or a better bank account. And for about 10 minutes, it feels incredible. But then I open my eyes, check my phone, see an overwhelming email, and I am instantly stressed again. Why does the brain just throw the visualization out the window the second reality hits?
Because you are relying solely on the conscious mind. And the conscious mind is only a tiny fraction of the equation. When you open your eyes and check that email, your conscious mind might be dreaming of success, but your nervous system, your actual biology, is locked in survival mode.
So the body is fighting the brain.
Actively fighting it, yes. The body is the unconscious mind. Biologically, we see this as cognitive dissonance. Your body has spent years, maybe decades, memorizing the chemical state of stress or scarcity. So when your conscious mind suddenly introduces a thought of abundance, the body looks at its internal data and says, this new thought doesn't match our survival baseline. Reject it.
Reject it. Wow. So it isn't a lack of discipline. It's a biological mismatch.
Precisely. Your nervous system prioritizes familiar threats over unfamiliar dreams.
That is totally mind-blowing, but also, incredibly frustrating. It makes me think of, it's like spending your whole life exhaustingly trying to move the furniture in a room that is actually just a projection.
A holographic projection, yes.
Right. I'm sweating, I'm breaking my back, trying to move the couch and the table, but the room isn't real. It's a projection cast by my own mind, and I'm wrestling with the light on the wall instead of just, changing the film in the projector.
And every time you wrestle with the light on the wall, you create more stress, which just reinforces that old survival state. You're feeding the very loop you are trying to escape.
Okay, so if the mind alone cannot force the change, and visualizing isn't enough to override the body's stress response, where is the projector? Where does the root of the signal actually come from? Because clearly it does not start in the head.
No, it doesn't. It starts in the body's true center of gravity, the chest, the heart.
This is where things get really wild for me. Because for most of my life, I was taught the heart is just like a mechanical pump, right? Just pushing blood around. But when we look at the neurobiology, it completely upends that. There's this concept of the heart-brain.
It is not a metaphor, it is strict physiology. The field of neurocardiology has proven that the heart possesses its own complex intrinsic nervous system. We are talking about roughly 40,000 sensory neurites.
Wait, 40,000? Like actual neurons functioning in the heart?
Yes, they can learn, they can remember, and they can make functional decisions independently of the brain in your head. The heart is, quite literally, a secondary brain.
That is just incredible.
And the communication pathway is what changes everything. The heart sends far more information to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. Those neural pathways travel right up the vagus nerve and plug directly into the amygdala.
Which is the brain's fear center, right?
Exactly. The amygdala and also the thalamus, which synchronizes our higher cognitive functions. So think about the implication of that. If your heart is constantly sending signals of stress to the brain's fear center, the brain stays panicked, regardless of whatever beautiful thing you are trying to visualize.
I love that. Let me synthesize that because it reminds me of a blueprint. The brain in your head is just the architect's blueprint. It provides the thought, the specific desire, the details of the reality you want.
A piece of paper.
Exactly, a piece of paper. It has no physical weight. The brain provides the blueprint, but the heart provides the gravity. The heart gives that blueprint the emotional and electromagnetic feeling that physically pulls the reality toward us.
The blueprint and the gravity, yeah.
It's like a radio dial. If the signal emitting from your chest or gravity is tuned to fear or survival, no rich thought can ever reach you. It's like turning a radio dial to a frequency of pure static and wondering why you can't hear a symphony.
All you will ever broadcast and receive is static. And we can actually measure that static biologically. When you are stressed, your heart rhythm pattern becomes erratic, chaotic. It looks like a jagged mountain range on a monitor.
And that chaotic rhythm travels up to the brain.
Right up to the amygdala. It physically hijacks your higher cognitive functions. It shuts down your frontal lobe. So you are biologically forced to repeat the exact same reactive patterns over and over, regardless of the situation.
Which naturally leads us to the most practical part of this whole deep dive. If chaotic heart rhythms keep us locked in our past, how do we physically change the channel? How do we stop the static? Because, let's be real, the loop starts the second we wake up.
It does. Walk through that morning loop because it is the trap almost everyone falls into.
Okay, so you wake up, right, you open your eyes, and instantly your brain scans your familiar environment to figure out who you are. You see the same room, you grab the same smartphone, you look at the same apps. Within 3 seconds of waking up, your external environment has completely anchored you to your old identity.
You remember your problems before you even put your feet on the floor.
Exactly. So how do you break that?
You have to sever the connection to the anchor. You need moments of absolute silence with your eyes closed. Not to just sit there and do nothing, but to strategically remove the external inputs that keep reminding your nervous system of who you used to be. You have to make the mind malleable.
Dimming the lights of the hologram so you can locate the projector.
Beautifully said. And once you disconnect, you bring your attention to your chest. We have an exact physiological mechanism to align the system. I call it the bridge of breath.
Okay, let's get into the specifics of this breath because it's very precise.
It is. You inhale continuously for 5 seconds, and you exhale continuously for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Absolutely no pauses, no holding at the top, no holding at the bottom. Just a smooth circular rhythm.
Now, I need to jump in here because when people hear deep breathing, they immediately think, oh, this is a relaxation technique.
It is emphatically not just a relaxation technique. It is biological tuning. The 5-second mark is critical because when you breathe in that uninterrupted rhythm, you hit the resonant frequency of your cardiovascular system, which is about 0.1 hertz.
So it's about balance, not just chilling out.
Yes, you are perfectly balancing the sympathetic nervous system, your gas pedal, with the parasympathetic nervous system, your brake. It clears the static so the heart's thousands of neurons can finally speak to the stars, so to speak.
Wow. Signaling profound safety to the nervous system.
Exactly. The body registers safety. It stops allocating energy toward hyperalertness and threat detection and frees that energy up for creation and adaptation.
It makes me think of a lighthouse. When you're in survival mode, your energy is scattered everywhere, like a dim bulb in a thick fog. But once you engage in that tuned state, the bridge of breath, the static clears, the fog lifts, and suddenly your intention is this perfectly focused, high-wattage beam of light cutting through the external world.
A perfect metaphor. The lighthouse is on. But that brings us to the crucial question. Once the tuning is achieved, what is the new signal you're supposed to broadcast? And why is it so incredibly hard to maintain?
Right, because this is where the real work is.
This is the most critical and honestly the most skipped phase. While you are holding that coherent state, you most feel the gratitude of the new reality before there is any external proof.
Yeah, and to the survival brain, that sounds completely ridiculous, like, I'm drowning in debt or my body is hurting, and you want me to feel grateful for healing that hasn't happened yet? It feels like pretending.
It is not pretending. It is training the biological system to recognize a completely new baseline. The unconscious mind, your body does not know the difference between an actual external event and a deeply felt internal emotion.
Wait, really? It literally can't tell the difference.
Biologically, no. When you feel true gratitude, you flood your system with the exact chemical signature that an event has already occurred. You are stepping into the reality. But then you open your eyes.
And you face the delay.
The ultimate test of the architect. The physical world is a delayed reflection of where you have been. The change is initially invisible.
This is exactly where everyone fails. I mean, let's connect the dots here for the listener. You do the tuning, you feel the gratitude, you feel like a master of the universe. Then you open your eyes, you check your bank account, and the money isn't there. You don't see the health instantly manifest.
The environment looks exactly the same.
Right. And what do? We instantly drop the new signal. We panic, we fall right back into our old, fearful patterns.
Because you look to the mirror for confirmation before the new image had time to travel. Learning to hold and protect that new internal signal, even when the external world seems entirely unchanged, is the true mastery of the quantum field. You cannot let the delay dictate your state.
You know, if you're listening to this right now, I challenge you to observe your own life tomorrow morning. Just run an experiment. Notice the exact second your brain tries to scan the room to remind you of your old limitations.
Catch the anchor before it drops.
Exactly. And instead of grabbing your phone, use the bridge of breath, tune your biology. And when you open your eyes, protect your new signal in the face of the delayed reflection. I want to leave everyone with a final thought to mull over today. Consider that every external frustration you face right now is just a ghost of your past internal state. You are fighting an echo.
The mirror's already waiting for your new face. Stop
Yeah.
scrubbing the glass. Just be the change.